was years ago, they shouted, inaction was a crime. They said the dikes must be improved and the wetlands must be saved. But Washington decided instead they should be paved.
Bringing peace and social justice issues into your living room, piece by piece. I'm your host for this evening, Pat Miner, and our guest this evening is Samar Sarhan, and she's come to talk to us a little bit about what's going on in Palestine, a conference that she and in the interest of pure of disclosure, me too, have been working on that's going on in Ankeney. And we'll be talking about things like what Ramadan has meant to her. Mm-hmm. So introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself to our audience.
My name is Samar Sarhan. I am a Palestinian American, and I'm currently the Middle East Apprentice at American Friends Service Committee, working on a conference and also working on youth engagement and youth involvement. So it's very exciting.
And how's that going?
Going really well. We're getting to the last days, as you know, Pat, for the conference, so I think we're scrambling a little. Yeah. But it's been going well. I mean, we're excited about it and just really can't wait to get in there and start meeting people and just doing really great work.
Let's talk about who's going to be there.
Well, we have some really awesome speakers coming. We have Phyllis Bennis. She's going to be our keynote. And then we also have Layla Al-Haddad.
Who is Phyllis Bennis?
Sorry,
You can reintroduce her to our audience.
She is an activist who's done a lot of work on Palestine and Israel. She's actually a Jewish person, Jewish descent, I guess. And she is very active on the issue. She authored a couple of books. And she also is on the board for U.S. and the occupation of the Israeli occupation. So it's very exciting. We also have, as our end note, I like to call him end note, is Layla Al-Haddad, and she is a Palestinian journalist / blogger. Her blog is Gaza Mom, so very popular, very great, great lady. She's also authored a book just about her experiences. She is actually married to a Palestinian refugee who is not allowed to go back into Palestine. So she talks a lot about that and her experiences and just being young Palestinian and a Muslim in the U.S. So it's very interesting.
That sounds great.
So those are two of our keynoters, but we obviously have lots of great speakers. We have different people from around the state, around the U.S. That are coming to kind of speak. We also have a performance by Rami Kanazi. He is a Palestinian poet based in New York, and he's going to be also performing and hopefully hosting a workshop. So we're really excited about that.
Great. And what other kinds of workshops are going to be going on?
We have some really great workshops. We have a couple of different tracks. We're going with policy impact, informational, and then support to Palestine, inside it, external and internal. And then we also have a youth track. So we've got speakers like our lovely host tonight, who is doing a workshop about media. We also have workshops about boycott, divestment, and sanctions. We have workshops about experiences people from inside Gaza. We have workshops about the Kairos documents. We have somebody coming from the Jewish Voices for Peace who's going to be talking about Zionism, Christian Zionism, you name it, we got it.
Sounds wonderful. And what is the intent of this workshop? Is there something that we're hoping will come out of it?
Yeah, we all attend lots of conferences, be it for Israel, Palestine, or for our work or whatever. And you really feel like you go to this conference and you really don't do anything with it. I mean, you bring a lot of great knowledge, but we really want to make sure that people are actually doing something afterwards. So a part of the conference is actually going to be dedicated to starting up actions and kind of getting a committee going and people around the state and maybe in the area to try to take action steps. What are we going to do as U.S. citizens or even people who reside in the U.S. to help this issue, since we have such a huge stake in it with our taxes being given to Israel. So that's a huge part of the conference. We really want to, it's a call for action. We really want to make sure that we're not just learning and sympathizing, we also want to act and do something. So that's kind of really, and we have a lot of great speakers that are able to talk about that and how we can utilize these in our different communities, be it our faith communities, our school communities, our friendships, our families. How do we really kind of get the information out there?
And once we get the information out there, how it's being utilized by whoever.
By citizens, by
Yeah.
people who are interested, people who are not interested, people who know a lot, people who don't know a lot. We really wanted to kind of mix it up with the conference and make sure that we not only had people, we're addressing people who are activists on the issue, but also people who maybe don't really know that much and are interested.
And because our end result is what? To change the policy.
Yes, to change the
name
US
of the
policy.
conference is?
As U.S. policy in Palestine and Israel, engaging faith communities in a just peace.
Yeah.
It's a very long title.
Yeah, and our end result is what we want to do or help do at least is to change the U.S. policy towards Israel-Palestine.
Israel-Palestine and some of the acts that are happening and some of the bills that are being passed. So.
Yeah, you mentioned when we were off air that there is a bill in Congress right now that would cut aid to Israel-Palestine or Palestine because of the UN initiative?
Yep.
Yeah.
They are proposing to cut aid to Palestinian, especially the UN, but especially Palestinian territories. As we all know, the UN does a lot of great work in Palestine. They have hospitals, they have schools. Actually, some of my family members are actually employed by the UN. So I can't imagine what they would do if they didn't have this opportunity. So I think.
Well, and what would happen to the
people that are
if
being
they
served?
didn't get the aid? Yeah, right.
I mean, a lot of the hospitals are just doing a lot of great work, and nobody else is. So what are these people are going to do? I'm not sure.
Right, and the schools. There's a lot of there's schools that are run by the UN as well. Yeah, and so it's something that the U.S. is doing in an attempt to stop a bid by the Palestinians to go to the UN to be recognized as a state.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the U.S. is really trying to do this in any way possible, be it sanctions, be it not funding UN or not passing bills. So I think they're really, really gun-ho about trying to stop this vote from happening.
And I don't know, maybe you have a better understanding than I do. I have a really hard time understanding why they want to stop this bid. I mean, it's just, to me, it's all backwards because they're putting sanctions on Palestine in a bid to become a state, and yet it's Israel that's breaking international law in many cases, and they're not putting sanctions on Israel. Now, does this make any sense to you?
It doesn't. But then again, I think politics in general just tend to not make sense. But it's kind of interesting because we talk a lot about freedom and democracy, but yet Israel is breaking so many of human rights laws, any kind of international law that they're breaking constantly every day. But yet we say that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East.
Yeah.
When in reality, that's not true.
We know that that's not true.
Yes.
I mean, one of the most recent things that's been going on there is, well, Turkey is a democracy, correct?
Yes.
Isn't that correct?
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe they don't consider Turkey in the Middle East, but
not really.
but it probably really isn't in the Middle East. But one of the things that's happening with Turkey is that they have broken off relations with Israel because of what's happened in, with the aid,
The flotilla.
the flotilla, and where, if some of our viewers don't remember or don't know, it was a year and a half ago now.
Yeah, it was roughly a year and a half ago. It was. They had an aid ship coming to Gaza, and Israeli troops, IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, stopped them and it basically attacked them and killed 9 Turkish people. I think they were all Turkish citizens, and these people were unarmed. I know there's different reports that are coming out that are saying they were, some of them had knives, some of them had pipes, but the videos that we've seen, they were unarmed, and they came in and basically shot unarmed citizens.
And one of the citizens had dual Turkish American citizenship, and America has done absolutely nothing about it. And Turkey has, they demanded. I guess to back it up just a little bit, Turkey is one of the few countries, Egypt, Turkey, Jordan are among the few Arab countries that had a good relationship with Israel. And Turkey's pretty much broken diplomatic relations with Israel over this issue because they have refused to apologize. You know, Israel continues to maintain that they
did nothing wrong.
Yeah,
they were, you know,
which is kind of scary, you know, when you think about it. It's like, you know, they felt like their lives were in danger.
Yeah, you know, I don't know how, because it wasn't, the ship didn't have any kind of guns or weapons, or I guess everything could be used as a weapon today, but it was mostly an aid ship. They had, I believe they had an ambulance on there. They had medical supplies. They had building supplies that weren't able to get in. And Israel viewed it as a threat, and they decided to do that. And I know recently, you know, Israel just came out with their report about what had happened, and just basically said, you know, we don't think we did anything wrong, and we're not going to apologize. And I think that's when Turkey decided that it would no longer host the Israeli embassy.
Right. And they withdrew their diplomat from Israel.
Yes.
And they're also saying that they will support an aid ship that will go in with their, I don't know, do they call it a Marines or Navy or maybe something? Their military anyway.
Military.
Yeah. And that's interesting. I don't know exactly what will happen there, but it seems that they have broken, you know, that obviously, you know, I don't know, they would probably say their sovereignty is more important than diplomatic relations with Turkey, the only one of the few Arab nations in the area that they were friendly with.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of more discourse in that aspect in the Middle East. We're seeing a lot more people, a lot more countries that are kind of breaking off relations with Israel. I know Egypt is kind of starting to waver. And
Egypt's starting to waver a little bit after well, some people call it the Arab Spring.
The Arab Spring.
I've heard Arab Awakening too, but I don't like that. I mean, I think it's Al Jazeera calls it that because
I think Arab Spring.
Because it sounds to me like if you call it Arab Awakening, then does that mean they were asleep before that?
Quite possibly. I mean, maybe there was a little sleeping.
But anyway, after that, Egypt has changed somewhat. They still are holding to certain aspects of the agreement with Israel. They have not completely opened, for example, the crossing. You know, the crossing to Gaza.
Yeah, I think they're slowly opening. I mean, I think there was days that it was open, days that it was closed, so it was kind of one of those.
Yeah,
but it's supposed to be open.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, because one of the problems is that they're not. We were talking about this a little bit too. Is that they're not getting. I mean, Israel bombed. And how long ago was that invasion, that incursion? A year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's roughly about 2 years ago. Yeah.
And Israel bombed extensively in Gaza for 6 weeks. Was it?
Yeah, it was. I think it was. Yeah, it was. You know, quite a while. And it didn't. The thing about that is it didn't bomb. I mean, they said we are bombing because of security reasons or whatnot. But they bombed UN buildings. They bombed schools. They bombed hospitals. They bombed mosques. So they weren't
bread
really,
shops.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't targeted at a certain entity, I guess. And they're continuing actually to bomb right now. There's bombs that have been launched lately, so that's kind of concerning as well.
And the problem is with the siege on Gaza is that they have not been able to get building materials in because they say that they can be used for other purposes. And so, you know, they have bombed out buildings still.
Yes.
You know, they're not able to rebuild their schools, their hospitals.
Yeah. You know, and it's crazy because we really don't think about building. When we think of building, we think in terms of the U.S. that we need lumber but in Jordan, in the Middle East, mostly building is done with cement and brick. And, you know, it's not, those materials are not easy to carry and not easy to get. So it's definitely not something that you can just use anywhere.
Go cut down a forest.
Exactly. I mean,
You know.
really not that many forests in there. So,
Right.
but so that I think that's kind of the struggle too. A lot of people think, well, cement, you can use it for other things. And it's hard to build the building. I mean, it takes time and it takes resources. And right now there's obviously inflation because of lack of resources and people aren't getting paid. So they can't necessarily, I mean, how can you rebuild when you don't have any income coming in?
Right. Well, even the UN can't rebuild, and
Yeah.
if they decide to cut off aid to the UN, the United States cuts off aid to the UN. And of course, they're the largest group of or country that contributes to the UN. So if they cut off aid, then
That's definitely
pretty much a problem there.
Yeah, it's going to make a huge dent.
You know, we might want to just hit on the upcoming UN vote.
Yes.
I'm not sure that our viewers quite understand this, and we are going to have a panel about that in a couple of weeks. But if we want to just talk a little bit about what the UN vote involves and what you think about it.
Well, in the UN, basically, what the regime is looking not the regime, sorry, the government is looking for, is they want to get Palestine recognized as a state, and what that entails for a state is that they have voting rights, they have capabilities to participate, they can use some of the resources, obviously. The UN does help, but they can definitely have a little bit more capacity. And to be recognized by the UN would mean that they are actually a state and they have the rights of a state, so we can get the process rolling on some of the war crimes and whatnot. But a huge opponent of that, obviously, as we know, is the U.S. And to get this approved, I mean, the General Assembly can approve it, but to get it kind of to be official, it has to go through the Security Council, and the U.S. has already said that they will veto any bid for statehood for Palestinians. So I think that's kind of the biggest struggle. There's a lot of different opinions on it. Some people really think it will hinder the process, hinder the ability for Palestinians to return, to live. And some people really think it's a good step in the right direction. And my personal opinion, and from that standpoint, and from just kind of work standpoint, we definitely believe that it's the people's right to decide what they would like to do. I'm Palestinian, but I've never lived there. I don't have to go through those experiences. The only experience I have is sitting 3 hours at the King Hussein Bridge waiting to get my passport stamped. And that's nothing compared to somebody that lives there every day. So I really can't say, oh, I think this is a great idea, because I don't live it. And I will never fully understand, even though I am Palestinian and I do identify myself that way, but I also understand that I will never, ever truly understand, because I am an American citizen, and that gives me rights that my fellow Palestinians and fellow family members don't have.
Yeah.
So I think people should decide, and it should be up to them what they want to do. And I've heard different comments from inside Palestine. Some people are for it, some people are against it. Some people just really want to see a change, and they want to see something better.
Well, something different anyway. I mean,
Yes.
Something, at least with this bid, it feels like maybe they're moving towards doing something.
Yeah.
Where, all these years they've just been sitting, with some non-existent peace process, whatever that means.
And, and with this bid, it also comes the question of, after this happens, then what next?
Then what?
I mean, we're so focused on the bid and getting it, but what next? What's after this? And I think that's the discussion that we haven't been having.
You haven't heard that?
I haven't heard that.
I've heard a little bit of discussion about what happens next. And actually, among the things that I've heard, and I get most of my information since I don't have family and friends there. Well, I have friends there, but I don't have family in Palestine. But one of the things that I've been hearing is that they are talking about disbanding the PA.
Yeah, I've heard that. And
what that would mean in the long run is that there would no longer be a Palestine, that there would not, if they can't get recognized by the UN, then it would be a one-state solution situation, which is, I mean, I don't think in the end that anybody would really be satisfied with a one-state situation. So I know Israel's not happy with that, and I'm pretty sure most of the Palestinians aren't very happy with it. But again, it's something they have to do something.
Yeah.
Because what they've been doing for 40 or 60 years, depending on which way you look at the situation, hasn't worked.
Yeah.
So far, it hasn't worked.
And I think I think there's a lot of great merits to the fact that they want to have this, but I also think, will this really alleviate some of the stresses and some of the things that Palestinians go through on a day-to-day basis? I don't know. I think the biggest thing is also kind of discussing what's going to happen with, borders, job opportunities, living conditions, settlements. I mean, those are all discussions that I think we need to have because those aren't going away, and they're getting difficult to handle every day, and the scope where people are living is getting smaller and smaller. And how do you kind of say, well, we have a state now, but we don't really have a place to live? So I mean, I think that's kind of hard.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not there. I'm with you. I think that the people in Palestine should be the ones to make the decision, which is one of the reasons that what I would like to see is the U.S. stand aside in the Security Council and just not, either not be present during the vote or to vote present or whatever.
Abstain.
Abstain, yeah. And but I guess they feel like it's a step in the right direction. Like you said, some people believe it's a step in the right direction, that maybe if they could get recognized as a state on the 67 borders. Mm-hmm. But again, that would say, okay, so Palestine's on the 67 borders. What happens with settlements?
Yeah.
What happens with the wall?
Yeah.
I
mean, and we are not seeing any end to the wall, and we're not seeing any end to the settlements, and that's one of the things that Israel's very holding on to is the settlements, and really a true.
And so if they're recognized on the 67 borders, does that mean that the settlements are part of Palestine then?
Yeah, I mean, how does that work?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you kind of figure that out? I mean, how do you?
I mean, I guess that would be acceptable to me. Yeah. Then you let the Israelis decide whether they want to live there or not.
Yeah, and I think, and the other idea that I thought of was maybe, have the Palestinians demolish it and then send the bill to the Israelis, since that's what they tend to do with Palestinian homes. They will demolish the homes, and I know there was one case of they demolished the homes of some Bedouins, and then they sent them the bill and said, well, you need to pay for this.
We demolished your own.
Yeah, so I think maybe maybe that could be the reverse justice. So.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know if that'll work, but it's just an idea.
It would be nice if they would be a little more, generous than that.
Yeah, I agree.
So you can live here if you want to, but you'll be under Palestinian authority.
That would be very interesting twist.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah. It would be a quite an adjustment, I think.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that, and we'll be keeping a close watch on that.
Yes.
Here at Piece by Piece, we'll be having some. Discussion about it in the future.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
I definitely look forward to
it. One thing we forgot to mention, I was thinking about this, about the conference, and we'll jump back and forth. We forgot to say when and where.
Yeah, I guess that's important to recognize those things. The conference is going to be October 14th and 15th, and it will be in Ankeney, Iowa. Pat and I were just talking about how far it is, and I think it's about 2.5 hours from Iowa City.
About 2.5 hours.
I'm very directionally challenged, so please don't ask me where Ankeney, Iowa is. And it's going to be at Our Lady of Immaculate Heart Church, Catholic Church in Ankeney, Iowa. It's very easy to get to. If I can get there, I promise you, everybody else can.
Yes.
So it's very easy to get there. There's great accommodations. We have rooms set up at Quality Inn. The registration is only $30 for adults, I guess you could say, and for students it's $10. You can register beforehand on our website. It's afsc-iowaconference.org.
Right on the graphic.
Yes.
Put that up.
So if you would like to register, please go ahead to our website and do that. You can also register on the day of. which is fine. Like I said, the conference starts on Friday. It'll start at noon, and it will go till about 8 p.m. And then on Saturday, it'll start around 8 and go until about 8 p.m. So if you're interested to come, we have lots of, like we said, lots of great
Good
speakers.
food. We're going to have
Good
lots of
food.
good
I
food.
think food is a very huge, important factor. We're going to have a lot of different varieties of Mediterranean food and maybe Middle Eastern dishes. So that's kind of a good thing to go. For anybody that's Muslim out there, our meat is going to be all halal, and it's going to be donated from Myanmar. Which is great, which we're really excited about, and that's a great option for our brothers and sisters in Islam. So definitely check that out.
And we're going to have other accommodations for Muslims.
Yes, we are, and we're actually are going to have an area for prayer, since we have to pray 5 times a day, and obviously we know it's a church, but you can definitely we're going to have a room available for Muslims to pray in. I think that's really important, and that's great. And we have a lot of great Muslim speakers out there as well. So we're really excited about that. Layla Al-Haddad is Muslim, which I personally am excited about because she's also covered like I am. So so that's kind of exciting. And we have a lot of different great Muslim speakers that are going to be talking not only about Israel-Palestine, but they're also going to be talking about Islam and just kind of how this plays into our religion as well. So that's going to be good stuff.
Yeah, speaking of your religion, we just passed Ramadan.
We did just pass Ramadan. That was quite a long month. It was the whole month of August. And we fasted from sunup to sundown. No food, no water, no drink. And it was a challenge. I mean, it was a challenge to not have anything till about 8:30 at night.
Yeah, because August is a long day.
Yes, it is. But it was a challenge, but it was also very humbling, especially with what's going on in Somalia and the African Horn and the famine that we're hearing about. You know, one of the things that I thought about was when I was fasting, I was like, oh man, I'm so thirsty. I wish I could have water. And then I thought about all the people that won't be able to break their fast when come sundown, and that kind of was really humbling. Really makes you think, man, I'm privileged to be able to get water at
So
the end of the day.
can you explain to our viewers, some of our viewers probably aren't familiar with Ramadan.
Sure. Ramadan is a holy month for us. It is the month where the Quran, which is our holy book, was revealed, and it signifies kind of uniting us in prayer, in solidarity, in understanding, in humbling us, and kind of reconnecting in a spiritual way, kind of like Lent, I think. That's the only thing I can think of that's close enough to it. And we fast from food and water from sunup to sundown. And we also fast, obviously, from some of the ills that we do, like backbiting and talking about people, gossiping, which we shouldn't be doing anyways, but trying to be a little bit kinder and start some really good habits.
But you get kind of grumpy.
Yes. I was telling Pat earlier, my coworkers, thankfully, were very kind, and they were very understanding, and they were like, you were a little snappish today. Could you tone it down? So they were really good about that and kind of keeping me in check. I appreciated that they were able to do that for me. So that definitely makes a difference. But Ramadan's just a really important month, and each year it moves up 15 days. So next year it's going to be in July and August. So that's going to be a challenge.
It's probably not as hot, but it'll be longer because
it'll be
the days get longer.
Yeah, it'll be a longer day. But your body has a way of adjusting, and it's a good time to cleanse your soul and cleanse your body of some of the toxic stuff that we eat.
And then at the end of Ramadan?
At the end of Ramadan, we have a wonderful holiday that's called the Eid al-Fitr, which is basically translates to holiday of the feast. And it's a 3-day holiday. We get to go to prayers and hang out with family, get some clothes, get some money. Money is important.
Sort of like Christmas.
Yes, kind of like a Christmas thing. So it's a great holiday, and it's just a great time to connect with family and visit. That's definitely something I miss about living overseas, is that you get to see family members that you haven't seen in ages.
Yeah, so you make it a point to get together with family?
Yes.
Just Christmas is like that?
We visit everybody in the family, and they visit us, and we all get to see each other and catch up. So
cool.
That's good.
I want to take just a minute to say that you're watching Piece by Piece. I'm Pat Miner. We're halfway through the show now, and our guest this evening is Samar Sarhan. We're talking a little bit more about the conference, and we'll be talking about a little more about what's going on in Palestine in particular. And if you would like to join the conversation, you can call our number. I don't have it memorized, but I'm sure that my cohorts will be putting it up on the screen now. So please call and ask a question.
Yeah.
Have a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Definitely.
And so then Eid is over too.
Eid is
now.
over. Eid was a 3-day holiday that was last week.
Last week.
Last
Yeah.
week. Yes, it was last week. All right, get my days mixed up. No, I think it was two weeks ago.
Was
2 weeks ago. Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. It was at the end of August. So, and it's kind of interesting because the U.S. is such a big country. It's hard to celebrate Eid on the same day since we decide. Since Ramadan ends depending on the moon when you see the new moon. So different areas have different celebrations. Like I know in Chicago they celebrated on Wednesday, in Des Moines they celebrated on Tuesday, and somewhere else they celebrated on Tuesday. I mean, so it's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, and when you're overseas, it's a little bit easier since Jordan, where I used to live, is about the size of Indiana. So it's a little bit smaller country.
The whole country.
The whole country is about the size of Indiana. It's actually a little bit smaller. So
They
imagine.
all celebrate at the same time.
Yeah, so all celebrate at the same time. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's an official government holiday. They decide from this day to this day. So it's kind of a little bit different here. You're just kind of, I have to go up to my boss and be like, well, I'll let you know the night before. So it's kind of an interesting change.
Well, so you're saying that your job was very accommodating.
Yes,
And that's
thankfully.
good. That can be a problem, I imagine,
Yeah,
for some people.
Some people don't necessarily get to be able to celebrate. Some people just choose not to. But most workplaces that I've seen have been very accommodating with letting you take the day off and kind of understanding. And it's definitely an interesting conversation to have with employers, because they kind of, it opens their eyes up a little bit to kind of understanding a little bit better about what that entails and what that means to you. So it's definitely an interesting conversation.
Right. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, involving religion and anniversary that's coming up is 9/11.
Yeah, it's a big anniversary.
Yeah. And can you tell me a little bit how it affected you personally, and do you remember where you were?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I was still living in Jordan when 9/11 happened. I was 16 years old, and I remember when the Twin Towers got hit. And, there's a time difference, so obviously we heard about it late at night. We heard about it at night, and it happened during the day. So that was kind of really a lot of miscommunication. There was a lot of kind of not understanding really what was going on, and I think I was very far removed from it. And I talked to a friend in the U.S., and that was telling me, like, this is what happened, and it was very distant for me. I had actually moved a month after 9/11 to the U.S., and that was where I really fully understood the impact of what had happened and the devastation and the complete and utter just kind of horrifying fact that this had happened. It's a scary thing to think about, that people can actually be so bold to do something like this, and just very, very scary thought to think that they did this in the name of Islam, which is really hard for a lot of Muslims, especially people who really either don't understand the faith or really are practicing and see this as a complete kind of misinterpretation of Islam. I mean, there is no where it says in the Quran or in from the Hadith, which is what the Prophet had said, that this is acceptable. Some people we can interpret anything. I mean, you can take everything out of context. The same with the Bible, and I think there's a lot of that misinterpretation, and that's what really happened. And that's a scary part. I mean, you could take things out of context and blow it up and make it completely how you want it to look. And I think that's really what happened with some of these men that decided to do this. But Islamically, in any kind of rules of engagement, I guess you could say, as a Muslim can't attack unless he's attacked. So I can't just come up to somebody and slap him on the face. unless they've attacked me. Not that I would slap anybody on the face. But, and one of the biggest things about, combat in Islam is that you cannot kill innocent lives. You cannot kill children. You cannot kill clergy. You cannot kill livestock. You can't kill plants or crops. You cannot do damage to any structures, that are religious or whatever. You can't kill women and children. You can't kill senior citizens. I mean, so there's a lot of things that happen with the Twin Towers and with the attacks that were very un-Islamic, and people just kind of forgot that. I mean, they focused on Islam as an extremist country, religion, and that's not true. I mean, we're very nonviolent and very peaceful, and it's not at the tenets of our faith. So that was definitely a huge shock, and it was a really good learning experience for me personally. I learned a lot about my faith and more about myself because I was able to understand what was going on and how this really affected, me as a Muslim and a practicing Muslim, and who chooses to wear my religion on my head. So it was definitely a learning experience, especially for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, so you're visible to
Yes.
to the public
Yes.
that is nervous
Yeah.
about. Yeah, did you have any untoward experiences?
I did, actually. Interestingly enough, I moved to the U.S. and, like I mentioned earlier, Pat, I moved to a really small town in Illinois, and they were not going to let me into high school
Is that right?
because I wore the scarf, but they couldn't, obviously, since it's my... But I remember when I got in, a lot of my teachers had briefed their students about me and said, we have this young lady coming in, and and just kind of that was really interesting. The fact that I was such just an anomaly to them, and they didn't really understand. And a lot of people, I remember one person asked me, how was your first Halloween? I was like, well, I was born here. I lived here. I know what Halloween is. So it was just interesting. I remember somebody asked me if Jordan was a state. Probably not the brightest person in the school, but I mean, and I got threats. I mean, I got threatened by my classmates. I got threatened, by people.
What kind of threats?
I got a lot of, we're gonna make her take it off. We're gonna make her take her scarf off. Or I got the whole, well, baseball cap is my religion. So I got both ends of the spectrum, but I also got a lot of great experiences. I learned a lot. I grew a lot. I remember my counselor had said, you choose to wear it, you choose to deal with the consequences. And that's what I did. I chose to deal, and I chose to deal with it, and I chose to speak out and be a stronger, have a stronger voice about it. Because if I wasn't speaking, somebody else was for me, and they weren't necessarily sending the message I wanted to send.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting kind of place to be in, and also being a Palestinian kind of adds to that. Well, I don't get it, so.
Yeah, especially in a small town.
Yeah.
As I mentioned to you earlier, I'm also from a small town, and I just can't, I can't imagine, having a Muslim in that small town.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine the kinds of things you're talking about, actually. Yeah, some in high school particularly can be pretty unforgiving.
Yes, very.
Yeah, and so did you find that were they afraid of you?
I think there was some fear. I think there was some frustration. I remember one of the students thought I was very attention-seeking because I talked about my religion all the time. But I kind of felt like they didn't really understand the importance of my religion to my daily life, and I think that was something that they struggled with. Different people had different opinions. A lot of people felt like I wasn't an American enough, or I don't know how you can be an American. And then I felt, and there was a lot of that, but I also had a lot of really good conversations, and to be honest with you, I have some really good friends that I still talk to from high school.
Great.
That made the experience a little bit more bearable, and I think those are the experiences I choose to kind of focus on, and I gained a lot of experience just kind of going through that and learning about myself and learning about my religion and learning about my heritage that I didn't know before because everybody was Muslim around me. Everybody was practicing. It wasn't a big deal to see somebody in a headscarf. So it was an experience. I mean, it's worth it. I mean, I've learned so much by being in the U.S. about Palestine, about, my heritage, about my country, about where I'm from. So, I mean, I definitely am thankful that I have had these experiences to be able to kind of understand this struggle that the Palestinian people have and also Muslims have.
Because you came from Jordan?
Yeah.
Your family grew in Jordan?
My family left Palestine in 1948. Well, they left their town in 1948, but they officially left in 1967. And then they moved to Jordan. They moved to Saudi Arabia and then to Jordan. So we are all lived there and raised there. So it was definitely different. I mean, my dad was actually born in Bethlehem, and they moved to
Has he been able to be back at all?
He has, actually. Thankfully, we all have American passports, so we're able to travel in and out of Palestine. And he's been back, and he took me a couple years ago, and he showed me where they had lived in Bethlehem, and he talked about where he went to preschool, and so that was kind of a cool experience to actually see where my dad kind of was born and brought up. So it was definitely a good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely it was worth it. I definitely enjoyed the trip, and it was worth the hassle. So.
Where you had to wait for 3 hours.
I had to wait. My dad got his visa within 5 minutes, and they made me wait 3 hours.
Which is kind of unusual.
Yeah.
Because usually it's the other way around. It's the men who have trouble.
Yeah, but my dad's older. No offense to my dad, but he is older. I was young. I was 22 at the time, the first time I went, and they asked me all kinds of questions like, I was visiting Jordan at that time, so they asked me when I was returning to the U.S., what I did in the U.S., am I going to visit any family in Palestine, and what was I going to do, why was I coming, why did I choose to come now, just kind of interrogation kind of thing. I mean, they took me off to the side and asked me questions, and and I answered and tried to do my best, and they actually, the first time we went, they asked for contact information from my family members in Palestine. And Ramallah, and we gave it to them, but I mean, I don't know what they did with it, but yeah, we waited for quite a while just to get my visa to get processed. So that was kind of an experience. And then I went last year, and I waited again for 3 hours to get my visa processed, and I hadn't changed passports, so I mean, they saw that I had a stamp in there from 2 years ago, but they just kind of made me wait. My dad and my uncle got their visas stamped right away, and then they made me wait. I think that my dad was getting a little worried at the end, so. But thankfully we got it.
Were you at least together?
Yes, we were. I mean, they stayed with me, and I think my uncle and dad decided to take a nap because 3 hours is a long time to wait.
We had some med students on the show that had been over in Palestine, and Palestinian American, and 3 American white guys, and interestingly, the Palestinian got through, and it was the white guys that had trouble getting through. It was just that's part of the issue with Israeli security, is that you never know for sure who's going to get through and who isn't.
Yeah, you really don't.
You think you understand the pattern, and then they switch it up on you.
And I think that's part of the scare tactic as well. Just kind of that puts that uncertainty in you, so you have that fear constantly of what's going to happen this time, what's going to happen this time. So I think that just kind of puts that fear, so more people are more likely to play it safe and not go, right? Because they're afraid. I remember there was a group of Americans that were ahead of us to get the visa this past time, and they were trying to get the Israeli stamp on a piece of paper instead of their passports, because I believe they were going on to Syria. And if you have any kind of Israeli stamp on your passport, you're not going to get into Syria or Lebanon. So they refused, and they refused they wouldn't do it. So they stamped their passports, and I don't know what they had to do. I don't know if they actually went on to Syria or not, but you just don't know. You don't know what you're going to get. You kind of walk in and be like, let's see what happens today.
And we have a case going on right now, actually. I don't believe I mentioned it to you before, but a University of Iowa student went in December, which is at the university is the winter break.
Yeah.
He went to visit his family. He was in Jordan, went to the West Bank, got out of the West Bank back into Jordan, and when he went to come back to the United States, he was told his visa was canceled.
Wow.
And I understand, I don't know anything about visas, but I understand that's highly unusual to be told at that point that your visa is canceled. And so he was told to reapply for his visa. And it's, he reapplied in January and he still doesn't have it.
Yeah, and I recently heard a case of that as well, of another young gentleman that is Palestinian. He went to visit family, and which he's done before, and when he went to the airport, they told him, no go.
Yeah.
Your visa, you need to get a visa again. I mean, and this young gentleman had a house and a job, so he had to wait to get the visa again. So it's definitely happening.
Did he finally get it?
He did. He actually did. He just recently got back to the U.S.
And how long is that?
He was in Palestine for a good 6 weeks.
Oh, wow. This is 6 months.
Yeah, no, I think it's
7 months.
Yeah, I think it's been a good 6 months or 6 weeks.
And he's now lost. This is the third semester of school he's missed.
Yeah, it's
really
difficult.
Ruined his life.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the things that they do. That's one of the ways that they kind of put control on that, is that by denying people the opportunities that they would like to take.
And this young man has absolutely, was totally focused on his schooling, studied constantly.
Yeah.
They don't care about any of that.
And it's really not, I mean, and I've been recently, I didn't mention this, but I've been recently following what's going on in New York with some of the counterterrorism stuff, and I read something about the Mall of Americas actually has a counterterrorism unit.
I saw that too.
And, and it's simple stuff that, somebody left a cell phone behind and they cordoned off the area and they, made a big hoopla, and the FBI went to this person's house and he's like, but I just left my cell phone behind. I mean, so I think that's kind of the same case. I mean, I've had that multiple times where I've not necessarily left my cell phone place, but I've gotten on a plane and somebody refused to sit next to me. They're like, oh, no, I'm just going to give you some space. Well, okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the space because I don't mind having 2 seats, but I'm really not going to bomb the plane. I was in D.C. this past March, and they had to pat down my head because, my hair could probably be bombed. So it's just simple stuff like that, and I understand that, and I respect them and to be honest with you, the TSA agents were really respectful and really understanding, and they were really apologetic. So I'm not gonna, but it's just simple things like that you really don't think about. You think that, what am I gonna do underneath here? I mean, really, what can I put underneath there? But they have to check it. So I mean, it's definitely a challenge. Being young and Muslim is not easy, and being young in general, I think, kind of adds a lot of stressors to that, and then just kind of adding on top of that you have a Muslim name or you look like a Muslim, you just kind of had lots of red flags.
Or Arabic name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just adds to the struggles, the daily struggles that somebody has. I definitely wouldn't like to have a name like Saddam right now. So
yeah. Yeah.
But it just makes a difference, I think. But it's part of the things that you have to go through, and just kind of a learning experience. It's a learning curve.
Yeah.
So just gotta keep working.
Well, and the bottom line is it's a learning curve for the rest of us as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's an experience. I came from a small Northwest Iowa town.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to sit down and talk with you is, it's wonderful to me.
Yeah.
It's great. You're not. To be honest, you're not the first covered woman I've ever been able to sit down and talk to before. But I mean, it's an experience for our audience.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them have probably never heard a Muslim woman talk. Well, that's not true. We've had Muslim women on before. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not just a learning curve for you.
Yeah.
It is for us as well. And I think that's one of the things that we're about, is bringing
Mm-hmm.
people into the studio to help people understand what's happening around the globe. And I think one of the things we need to point out is that it is important to Americans, primarily because billions, literally billions of our dollars are going to Israel to perpetuate what many of us consider to be, the international community considers to be, an illegal occupation.
Yeah.
and we're perpetuating that.
Yeah, and that's the scary part. I mean, that's the thing that we think about. We think about America as a democracy, a place that, that champions freedoms, and that's really important to them. And yet we support a regime or a government that oppresses people. And how does that correlate? I mean, you really can't add those two together. And that's why it's really important for people to really kind of understand where they're coming from, and we really want to advocate the conference.
Exactly.
That's coming up, and that's a really huge key component. So we're going to be talking about how you, as a citizen, can really help and make a difference, and also engage and learn more. I mean, this is a very safe environment. None of the people there are going to tell you that they're experts or they're perfect. I mean, yes, they're very knowledgeable, but they also want to learn from other people, and we really want to bring that education piece. So I definitely recommend coming to the conference. It's fairly cheap, $30.
Very cheap. Don't let her fool you.
$30.
It's very cheap.
And
that includes the meals.
It includes the meals, the yummy food that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And then we have hotel stays and a variety of hotels in Ankeney, and if you're interested, you can always...
Which we're getting reduced prices for.
We are getting reduced prices for, and if you would like to camp out, I'm sure there's areas that I wouldn't recommend that, but it's going to be October. So, I mean, and obviously I'm sure there's many people that have couches that would love to have somebody couch surf, so for a day and a half.
Yeah.
So definitely come on out to the conference. It's going to be October 14th and 15th in Ankeney, Iowa, at Our Lady of Immaculate Heart Church.
Don't finish. We got 10 minutes left.
I'm sorry, and we're really excited about it. And it's gonna. I'm really excited about this conference. I know, Pat, you guys have been working on this for quite a while, and I came in kind of
you weren't too late.
I wasn't too late, but I mean, I'm just really excited about the opportunity to really get to do this and really kind of showcase some of the great things that we've been doing and some of the great things that we're going to do.
A name I don't believe you mentioned was Don Wagner.
Yes, Don Wagner is actually going to be there as well, and he's going to be doing a workshop about, I can't think of what he's going to be doing right now.
Something about Zionism?
Yes,
maybe?
yes, I think it's Zionism. And he's going to be doing a great workshop, and we're really excited to have him. We have a lot of great speakers coming in.
Yeah, don't we have some people coming to talk about, another aspect we're talking about is what you can do individually in terms of taking trips.
Yep.
In terms of, is Palcraft coming?
Yep, Palcraft is going to be there. Palcraft is going to be there, and they're going to be talking about some of their crafts and some of the things that they bring. We also have a group travel agency that's going to be coming in and talking about kind of an ethical travel discussion. We also have a kind of a student segment as well. We're going to bring in some students that have actually traveled to Palestine and their experiences, and how their experiences, what they did, what they didn't do, what they enjoyed, what they didn't enjoy, and some of the good things about that as well. So definitely recommend that. Check it out. It's going to be a really great conference. We have organizing on campuses. We have organizing for just in general, organizing communities. We have the faith piece into it as well, kind of organizing your faith community. We also have some education about Islam as well. So it's going to be I think it's going to be a really good conference, and it's fairly cheap.
One of the best things about this kind of conference is the networking. You get to know each other.
And I think, and I'm
come and visit with Samar.
Exactly, and you can come and ask me questions that I can't answer, and I will pretend to know. Just kidding. But come and hang out with us, and there's a lot of great people that are going to be there. Not just the speakers, but some of the really good people that have been working on this, like Pat and
I'm going to be one of the speakers too.
You are, but you're also organizing too. Some of the great people that have worked on this conference and worked for the past year and a half.
Right.
And get to know other people that are maybe in your area or different parts of the state. I think that's one of the things that I enjoy about conferences.
I do too, yeah.
Is the networking and just talking to people and kind of seeing things in a different light.
See what's going on.
Yeah, see what's going on.
See what they're doing in other parts of the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
see what's working, see what's not working.
Yeah, and those are really important things too. So we definitely hope that you come out and hang out with us. And the website is afsc-iowaconference.org. And the registration's online. And you can pay through PayPal, in case you were wondering. And we are accepting donations as well. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. If you would like to donate to the cause, obviously that's greatly appreciated. If you'd like to come and help out, we still would like volunteers.
Sure.
If you want to help out, maybe set up, be a moderator, please definitely give us, email me, sarhan@afsc.org, or just email or get on our website and you'll find Kathleen or I's email. Definitely come on out to that and come volunteer, come check it out, come for
We're going to have
a night.
books.
We're going to have books. We are going to have
And,
books.
Yeah. And are we going to have crafts for
Yep,
sale too?
we're probably going to have
Books and
crafts,
crafts for
books,
sale.
crafts, informational tables. There's a couple of different
There'll be
organizations that are going to be setting up just some information about their different aspects. Like we said,
Sabile's coming?
yeah, Sabile's coming, and we have some of the books for sale. Some of our
I don't
speakers.
know if we have olive oil for sale or not.
Yep, we will
We're
have
gonna
olive oil for
olive
sale.
oil for sale.
And it is the best olive oil.
Olive oil is the best oil around.
It is the best olive oil.
And we know that for a fact because we have it
Yes,
every day.
Exactly, and you know, and I absolutely love it. So I'm definitely excited about it. I mean, I think it's just going to be a really, really great opportunity, and you know, I could talk your ear off about, you know, how great this is, but I'm sure you already know because you're already coming. So,
Yeah, but our viewers.
but our
need to
viewers, you must come as well to see our lovely faces in person, and I promise that I'm so much better in person than on TV. So definitely have to come out and meet us. You know,
Oh,
try.
Samar.
I'm doing some networking here, right?
Yeah, you're doing some networking.
I mean,
You're talking
definitely.
to these people.
Yeah. You know, we hope that you come and enjoy our conference and
It'll be wonderful.
yeah, and like I said, it's October 14th and 15th, and I did find out because somebody said that the World Food Prize Festival in Des Moines is happening that weekend. It is happening the weekend before.
Yeah.
So please
Don't have to worry about that.
save your trip
Yeah.
to Des Moines until our weekend of our conference.
Another thing you can do is, if you're interested, you know, some of these people, like you mentioned, Layla is a blogger.
Yes.
Check out some of her stuff online.
Yes,
Can you
it's
spell her name for us?
It's actually Gazamam, GAZAmom.com, and that's her website. And it's got her information, any kind of news pieces that she does, and you can also follow her on Twitter, and she's at Gazamam.com, Gazamam on Twitter as well.
And you can find out Phyllis Bennis. If you Google her, you'll find many of the things that she's written.
Mm-hmm.
She writes things that get published online as well.
Yes.
Her name is PhyllisBennis.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you get that. So anything else you'd like to add to? We're just about at the end of our time here.
Well, I would like to say ask questions. That is one of the things that I always try to tell people. Ask questions. If you don't know, ask. You know, I was at the gas station today getting gas in Bettendorf, and the lady asked me, "Are you Muslim?" And I said, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, I was just wondering." You know, and I think that's really great that she felt comfortable enough to ask me that question. Not only about Islam, but also ask questions about Palestine. Don't just stay silent. And I think that's really our big problem, is that we stay silent. So ask questions. That's the biggest advice that I can give people.
Ask a lot of questions.
Ask questions.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't know and you don't understand and you'd like to understand, because most Muslims Ramadan is second nature to me.
Right.
So when I say I'm fasting, they're like, okay. You know, it's no big deal to me because this is what I do every day. But to somebody that maybe doesn't fast or not a Muslim, they don't really understand. When I say BDS, a lot of people don't know what that is. So it's really important to kind of explain those things.
So explaining.
It is boycott, divestment, and sanctions to boycott any Israeli products and also do a cultural boycott as well and divest from the companies.
And we're going to be talking about that at the conference.
So yes, and that's one of the topics that we're bringing up as well. So definitely come, and if you want to learn more, this is definitely the place to be. Definitely going to be a lot of great workshops and a lot of great opportunities to network and to learn more. That's part of the reason why I'm a part of this, is because of networking. So I definitely recommend it.
It's definitely good. This is actually the third conference that I have helped
Preparations
coordinate,
must be made,
and
they
I've
said.
learned something at
Now
each
is the time.
So
It was years ago they shouted.
thank you very much.
Inaction was a crime.
And,
They said
yeah,
the
I'm really
dikes must
excited
be
about it, so.
improved,
We'll see
and
you
the
there.
wetlands must be
See you
saved.
hopefully soon.
But Washington decided instead they should be paved. 'Cause malls were more important than people's lives.